I know nothing about publishing. And you know the backstory of Engineers Insight. What's it like working for a publisher? What's the day-to-day?
Ultimately, at its simplest level, you're picking up the phone, going to see people to sell advertising space, or today, online space, or whatever it may be. But ultimately, it's at an ad manager's level, it's a sales-based role, outbound activity-based role.
Is there anything that people that watching this that have never worked in publishing, have never sold exhibitions, maybe me, is there anything that these people don't know or understand about that part of industry? Or is it as simple as we get a haul and there's 3x3s and I'm going to sell it for this much?
That's a really good question, actually. It's just about trying to create that experience in that hall. The event I did last year wasn't busy, and I knew if it didn't deliver, I wouldn't be coming back again. But I was prepared to stick my neck out for quality over quantity, and it delivered. I've got a conference coming up this June, 2 actually. One called the Sustainable Food Factory Conference, which is happening for the second time in Derby Arena, and I'm co-locating with another event called Food and Beverage Engineering Live.
Huge thank you to this week's sponsor, Yaskawa UK and Ireland. Founded in 1915, Yaskawa are one of the world's leading manufacturers of robotics, servos and drives, and actually trademarked the term Mechatronics in 1972. They have offices in England and Ireland offering sales and technical support, as well as a manufacturing facility producing drives and servos in Scotland. To find out more about Yaskawa, click the link in the bio and enjoy this episode.
My name's Iain McLean. I'm the director of a company called Curious Heads Media Limited. I organise exhibitions, conferences. I've got a conference coming up this June, 2 actually. One called the Sustainable Food Factory Conference, which is happening for the second time in Derby Arena, and I'm co-locating with another event called Food and Beverage Engineering Live.
Okay.
Both in Derby Arena.
Perfect. Let's go back way before career. Where did you grow up? What did you want to be when you're older?
I grew up in a place called Stranraer in southwest Scotland, and I really didn't know what I wanted to be honest. I had probably, believe it or not, I think I wanted to be a mechanic, but I decided to go away and study instead and to get a degree like a lot of people do.
What did you study?
I studied a degree in essentially in science and management, and I did that up in a place called Napier in Edinburgh. Did that back in the late 80s, early 90s.
Okay. What was the first step into a career then?
Once I'd done that, I have to be honest and say I really didn't know what I wanted to do. I had no idea. But I knew somebody who worked for a pharmaceutical company in sales, and they also had a company car. And have to be honest, I decided that I wanted to get a car, and working in pharmaceutical sales would be the best way of doing that.
Okay.
That's the honest truth.
How long did that last?
That's a good question. That's a really good question, actually. That lasted 3 jobs in pharmaceutical sales, if I can put it that way.
Okay.
It wasn't really a job for me, pharmaceutical sales. But
why? What was wrong with it?
I found it. I didn't really enjoy. The training was great, got great grounding in it, but out on the road all day, going round doctor surgeries or hospitals, knocking on doors, talking to these guys who didn't want to meet you, really didn't float my boat, if I'm honest. But I moved from 2 jobs in Edinburgh doing that, and then I got another job with another company down in the southeast, because I reckoned that's where I had to be to find my next job, if that made sense. So I moved to do the same thing in Kent back in the 90s.
And that's where you've stayed ever since?
No. I've been there,
you've been
left,
back.
Come
Okay.
back again.
Right.
It's a long story, but I ended up there back in cracky. What was it? 94.
Okay.
Selling pharmaceuticals.
And what happened next?
Actually, I remember I was in one of the aforementioned doctor surgeries, waiting to see a GP, and I was just flicking through one of the journals that was in reception, and there was an advert in there for somebody called an advertising manager. I hadn't a clue what it was, but it was for a company called Morgan Grampian, and it was based in Woolwich in South East London. So I applied for it, and to my great surprise, they actually gave me the job.
What year are we talking now? 90s?
We're talking 95.
Okay.
May 1995.
And that was your first step into publishing?
That was my first step into publishing. I knew nothing about it. So I went to work in Morgan Grampian. Morgan Grampian became Miller Freeman, which became Informa over the years. But I moved into their medical division, selling ad space basically.
Okay.
On a couple of the titles.
For like a magazine?
Yeah, for a magazine, yeah.
No exhibition space back then?
No trade show space. Pure magazine sales.
Talk me through the years then of publishing then, because I know nothing about publishing. And you know the backstory of Engineers Insight. What's it like working for a publisher? What's the day to day?
That's a good question. I suppose it depends how you approach the job, you know. I mean, ultimately, at its simplest level, you're picking up the phone, going to see people to sell advertising space, or today, online space, or whatever it may be. But ultimately, it's at an ad manager's level, it's a sales-based role, outbound activity-based role, whereby, you know, you're putting a lot of calls out there to engage with vendors, with companies to try and sell them advertising space. You know, and you can take into that what you want, but I think if the one thing that I think my training in pharmaceuticals provided me with, as well as when I worked in medical publishing, was, you know, you learn to probably have a much deeper conversation with customers and not sell to the customers really, but just have a conversation, if we can call it that.
Relationship.
Yeah, which is, you know, you talk a bit about life, you talk about business, and ultimately, if you're, you know, half decent at what you're doing, you know, you're gonna get something out of that, you know. But ultimately, it's just a conversation based role, if I'm honest.
Yep.
You know.
How long did publishing last?
Well, I went back into that again later on as well, to be honest. You know, but I worked for Morgan Grampian's medical division for nearly 3 years. I really loved it. It was great company to work for, great people I work with. And at that time, the company had become Miller Freeman at that point. They were moving their engineering exhibitions out of one division over in Chiswick and relocating it into our Woolwich office to sit alongside the engineering magazines, essentially, to create this new exhibition division within the Woolwich office. And the guy that was setting that up, who was essentially the commercial director of the publishing engineering division, asked me if I wanted to be his group sales manager, you know, running the sales across 4 exhibitions. One of them was called Subcon, which is still exists. Yeah. And another one was called Control and Instrumentation, which back in the day was well known. So I went to work with him, and it was a completely different experience from working in medical advertising sales, where, you know, the investments of ad spend are massive. You can imagine the amount of money these drug companies spend to get their brands out there. To work in you know, engineering publishing exhibitions was much more competitive, and you know, I think it involved a completely different approach to selling, whereby you had to have an activity-based mindset, but alongside that, you know, you had to have the ability to engage with customers properly, to communicate your position and understand their needs and wants, and align the two together. So I think from my perspective, working in that division was probably the place where I cut my teeth, and it all came together more in terms of me being able to become, you know, okay at selling any form of media at that point in time.
Yeah. Did you have a team under you at that point or not?
I had a team of 5 people underneath me as well.
Okay. How did you manage that?
That's a good question. You learn as you go along, I would say. I mean, I got things wrong, there's no doubt about that. Certainly I did. But I've always tried to work with and through people and not be dogmatic as much as I can. And I think, I was still learning my feet. Certainly I was under a lot of pressure, and I mean, I was under an awful lot of pressure to deliver the product, certainly deliver the events. And I think, I tried to keep that off my team as much as I could, but probably I did also pass some of that on sometimes as you try to manage your own stress levels. But overall, I think it was a positive experience, and certainly we're still in talking terms, those that I still know.
They don't hate you.
Some probably do.
Yeah. So what are we now, early 2000s?
Yeah, that took me. The company was actually bought by Centaur in 1999.
Okay.
So we moved across from we'd moved before that from Woolwich into Docklands for a period of time. Then we moved across to join this company called Centaur in 1999, and I moved on from that company about 6 months into the transition, and went to work for a company called Advanced Star, which was setting up and scaling up in the UK and going places. And I went there to work in their events division on a exhibition called Medical Device Technology.
Back to pharma.
Medical devices this time, actually, yeah. Medical devices, similar,
Yep.
And that was the NEC. I did that with them. Then my role expanded a bit, and I took a couple more events on board as well, and I became the kind of sales lead director for also some publications they had as well, pharmaceutical publications, laboratory publications, and obviously a medical device publication as well. So my role expanded, and I really enjoyed it. It's great fun. Really enjoyed the company.
Okay, so take us through to setting up your own business then. What happened in between? Obviously it's a big window, but...
A big window, yeah. A lot went on.
Always publishers, always exhibitions.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Basically, I got to the point, I'd been there for like 2.5 years, decided I wanted a fresh challenge. So I had the opportunity to go to work in the Middle East to launch a company called IIR, now Informa as well. I launched an exhibition out there called Palm. It was essentially a nightclub show.
Okay.
In Dubai.
How old were you then?
I was probably 34 going on 4 probably, to be honest. But I was 34 and 33. And I went out there to launch that show from scratch in 9 months, which was interesting. And I worked alongside a marketing guy who was instrumental in helping me get it off the ground. And together, in that 9-month period, we created a product which was great, to be honest. A pure event in Dubai World Trade Center from zero in 9 months.
And was nightclubs a big thing back in that?
No, it wasn't. No, it wasn't certainly. But I talked before about having discussions with your customers. We learned as well that really to create a successful event in that industry, you had to look at other elements that would add value. And a lot of these, let me call them pro audio and pro sound, pro audio, pro EV companies also install technology into buildings, commercial properties, houses, etc. So we launched another event alongside it called Install, essentially, for that market as well, and they both grew together.
Okay.
So again, that's just listening to the market
Yep.
and coming up with solutions that fit both needs.
Yeah. Talk me through setting up your own business then. What happened?
Yeah, I mean, basically,
Why did it happen?
Why did it happen? I mean, I think you get to the point where there's absolutely nothing wrong working for people, you know. And I've had a great time working for those that haven't. I've learned a hell of a lot, you know. And I think you get to the point where, you know, it's like it can be Groundhog Day repeating itself every couple of years, 2-3 years, you know. And at some point, you know, you either put up or you shut up, quite frankly. And you know, I've had the benefit of accumulating a lot of knowledge in a lot of different markets, and failing a lot and succeeding a lot. And I decided that I wanted to set up my own event, essentially, that catered for the food and beverage manufacturing sector.
Why food and bev?
I'd worked in it years before. I worked for a company called IML Group, which is a great company. And I've been exposed to a lot of industries within that business. And I'd always enjoyed food and bev, to be honest. I thought it was a great industry. Like the people, like the sector, such an important sector for the industry, for the economy here. And I felt that I wanted to create a product within that environment. And clearly, it's like any media space. It's condensed, it's congested, you know. So I wanted to find an opportunity that was different. So I launched in essentially November 2023 when the website was live. I launched the Sustainable Food Factory Conference, essentially to provide sustainability professionals, procurement professionals, with a platform to learn how they can essentially operate their plants and supply chains more sustainably and decarbonise them more. So I did that, launched it in November, executed it in June 2024, and it's not massive, wasn't massive. Nottingham Trent University, it went really well. I think exhibitor feedback was strong, and attendee feedback was strong as well. And there was a will to carry it forward into 2025, which we've done with just about every sponsor bar one coming on board again. Mm-hmm. And we've put it into Derby Arena this year, co-located it with a new event called Food and Beverage Engineering. Some of the feedback I've received was that the exhibitor sponsors were also keen to meet, you know, engineers, implementers of the technology, not just those that have a view on the more kind of strategic issues. There was a need to bring both those groups of people together so they could be in one room to discuss similar issues about engineering and food and bev and sustainability. So we're going to bring both together and really create a new event in Derby, and what will be a new experience for us all, to be honest.
What's your biggest worry?
The biggest worry, I mean, it's about delivery, purely about delivery. You know, you want to deliver. You want to deliver for your exhibitors first and foremost, and sponsors. That's so important. You want to deliver for your speakers and all the people that are investing their time and energy in you, and you want to deliver for the attendance, for the attendees. You want to deliver an audience. Basically, they're the most important things, mm-hmm. And it's all about delivering value both sides there, to be honest, and that's what I focus on all the time, just value delivery.
And what's your stance on quantity over quality then? Because I've been to a lot of shows over the years.
Yeah.
Exhibitor and attendee. And I suppose the one thing that everyone always talks about was the show busy or not?
Yeah.
Because the exhibitors don't tell other exhibitors if they've got many leads, but it's how many people are down an aisle. Yeah. What's your stance on that?
I think quality overrides quantity, no doubt about that. I mean, the event I did last year wasn't busy, and I knew if it didn't deliver, I wouldn't be coming back again. But I was prepared to stick my neck out for quality over quantity, and it delivered. And I think if you can deliver the right level of decision maker for your customers, and enough of them, of course, but I think if you can do that, you'll win. You'll win. Certainly, as the events get bigger, you know, you've got to deliver more quality. Certainly, but I won't deny that there is a balance between quality and quantity. But from where I sit, it's quality first. I think most would say that, to be honest.
What is Engineers Insight? So Engineers Insight is a free mobile app for engineers to have access to industry 24/7 from your phone. So I worked in manufacturing for 12, 13 years, got really frustrated with relying on print to find the latest technologies. So we came up with this newsfeed concept of all the latest products with the manuals, the application videos, CAD files, brochures. You can send inquiries, you can bookmark stuff so you're not saving on your laptop and it goes obsolete every time a firmware changes. Now there's jobs, so it gets updated every week. You can search keywords, you can search distances from postcodes and you can apply. You just attach a CV from the files in your phone. And then the next one that's coming is training. So if all goes well, 2025 we'll be launching a central training calendar with the MTC training to allow an engineer to have access to everyone's training courses in one place. So you could book a robot course from any of the big vendors, a PLC course from any of the big vendors, multiple other vendors involved, and then you only raise one PO. So I think that's the quickest overview of Engineers Insight I could give. What are the biggest changes? We just discussed like the 20 years previous.
Right.
What's the biggest changes in, I suppose, what you're offering now to what you were offering when you first started exhibitions?
That's a really good question. It's probably. I think all those years ago, I don't think there was probably just a focus on selling trade show stands in the main, certainly. But I think as we've gone forward in time, people are a lot more time conscious, I think, and there's the need to deliver, that experience I'm talking about now, more and more so. So from where I am at these early stages in what we're doing, it's about delivering great content for our attendees and for our speakers and for our exhibitors as well, to be honest. I mean, I'm essentially running 2 conferences at one time for our audience as well, because I really believe and I feel comfortable in doing that. I think it's the right thing to do.
How do you manage it all on your own?
I mean, you just go on with it. It's you just go on with it. I mean, once you decide to start, you can't turn back, to be honest. I mean, there are
Sleepless Nights?
No.
No.
Oh no, not really sleepless nights. I mean, they might be. They might be a bit disrupted, but I do get some sleep. But I mean, I think you can approach it one or two ways. To be honest, there are so many times when you think, I can't do this. I'm not going to deny that. You're under pressure all the time. But I think with maturity, when you get a little bit older, you realise that I put myself in this position. It was my choice to be here.
Yeah.
And I'm honestly driven by trying to deliver a great experience for my customers. I really am. And I'm really motivated by that. And you just lean into it. You just lean into it. I mean, there are so many things to do. We're like 5 weeks out from the event tomorrow, and it's kind of important. And I'm sitting talking to you. I'm trying to focus on what we're talking about, not elsewhere, basically. But there's a lot to do. But you just manage it. And I think in the world of events, the job is to manage risk, minimise risk, and be comfortable with uncertainty, because it's going to happen.
Yeah.
But it's okay. I mean, to be fair, if God willing, it'll be successful, and then if it does, we'd have to look at things certainly moving forward. I've only got 2 hands.
Yeah. Then the team needs to expand.
Yeah.
Okay.
It does.
What's been your proudest moment?
That's a good question. I mean, I think the event in Dubai was probably the best thing, because we did that during was it Operation Iraqi Freedom, Second Gulf War. That you probably won't remember, you were too young, but there were tanks outside Heathrow when the event was just about to happen, and the world was in a state of flux at the time, and we were launching and running the show just when this was happening, essentially. So to pull that off and to bring people into Dubai at that period of time was great, to be honest, you know. And it wasn't me; there was a whole bunch of us there, you know. Yeah. But to create that against all the odds, you know, when it really was touch and go, you know, and even like 4 months out, we didn't know what was going to happen, you know. And that's about keeping faith and keeping focused, and you know, selling it to those above you as well, if I'm honest. But that would be something we're all proud of, I'm sure.
Is there anything that people that watching this that have never worked in publishing, have never sold exhibitions, maybe me, is there anything that these people don't know or understand about that part of industry that, or is it as simple as we get a hall and there's 3x3s and I'm going to sell it for this much?
I mean, at the simplest level, that's it, isn't it? You can make it as complicated as you want, but ultimately, you know, you can get caught in the detail because there's plenty of detail. You know, you really can. You can get caught in the weeds if you want to, because it can be an organisational nightmare. But at the end of the day, yes, it's about having it's a blank hall that you put people into to engage with each other. That's what you do, and you know, yeah, there's a lot of bits and bobs that are involved in that, but yeah, that's it simply. You know, I think sometimes, you know, when I'm sitting here thinking about it, it's just about trying to create that experience in that hall, you know. Yeah,
once they're through the door.
Yeah, that's what you focus on.
They've got to remember it.
And just manage the back end of it, essentially.
Okay.
Yeah, that's their events, yeah.
Okay. Any advice for marketers or business owners that want to reach engineers at the minute?
I mean, I don't envy them sometimes. It's a tough job because you've got an absolute multitude of exhibitions you can go to. There's an absolute multitude of magazines you can go to. You have your own sales forces. You have your own specific targets within this massive manufacturing universe that's out there. But I think what we've seen certainly since COVID's now further behind us now, essentially, is that there is exhibitions do have a strong role to play if they can deliver the right quantity and quality, essentially. You know, I think there's a strong role for those sorts of offerings in the marketplace. But there are companies that don't do them, and I fully understand that. There are publications which do a fantastic job, and there are companies that just do that, and I completely get that as well. I think there's a whole mix of options out there for them, and it really depends upon what you're interested in.
Yeah, you just reminded me actually of I thought at the back end of COVID, exhibitions are dead.
Yeah.
I thought everything moved online.
Yeah.
Did you worry about that? No. You wasn't concerned about people not going to shows anymore?
No, I mean, no, not at all. I mean, I think there was a bit of disquiet out there, certainly, but at the time, it obviously wasn't happening. But I firmly believe that the power of face-to-face can't be beaten.
You can't replicate it.
No, you can't. No. You can't. I mean, you can do a certain amount of stuff online without question, but at the end of the day, I think we are human beings, aren't we? And we all engage face to face ultimately, or you'll get most done face to face, if I can put it that way.
Yep. What's your approach to building teams? We spoke earlier about you becoming a sales leader early in your career.
Yeah, I think teams are you've got to have people that have a shared view of what you're trying to achieve. Certainly, I believe that. I think if you need to essentially, create standards. But I mentioned before, don't. It's not do as I say, not as I do. I think you really have to work with and through people to get things done. It doesn't mean to say you're a pushover, but we're all there to get the job done first. But for me, you get nothing better out of seeing people grow as individuals. I get a lot out of that. So for me, it's about let's get the job done. But let's also help you achieve what you can achieve, so that if you do decide to leave, you're a much better person professionally and maybe personally than you were when you came in the door. I think for me, that's really, really important. And at the same time, when you talked about COVID, for example, at that time, there is a need for clarity and certainty sometimes. And when that's needed, then a leader has to come up and demonstrate that and give people that sort of, call it a clarion call or whatever, that can give them something to focus on. But I think, fundamentally people want to do well, and if you can see the good in people, and work with and through them, then you'll go far, But by the same token, I think as well, if people aren't delivering and you've done everything you can to try and help them, then you've got to be able to have tough conversations with people too,
Is this your personality talking, or is it things you've learned in your career?
No, it's me as a person, I look back at, I'm comfortable having feedback with people. I don't know all the answers, I certainly don't. And I'm more than willing to talk to anybody, try and find a solution that works for everybody, But I think I'm as you get a bit older, when I look back on those years 25 years ago when I was first managing people or leading people, you become much more comfortable in your skin as you get older. Mm-hmm. You're aware of your strengths and your weaknesses. You've failed a lot. You've learned a lot, hopefully. And I think if you can implement that into what you're doing on a day-to-day basis, you'll do fine. I mean, somebody once said to me, I'd promoted her within a company I worked in, and I left to go to another business, and she'd written me a card saying, I appreciate you having faith in me, and that meant a lot. And I asked her for feedback in terms of what I was like as a kind of boss, and she said I was firm but fair, and I would kind of take that any day of the week, to be honest.
Yeah, that's something that hopefully people are still watching at the minute. Hopefully, business leaders take that sort of thing into account, because that doesn't happen. It certainly doesn't happen very often.
Yeah.
People are too scared to receive that feedback, so they don't ask for it. Whereas, really, if you want to be a better leader, you need to know what you are bad at.
And you've got to create an environment where people are comfortable being open with you. Yeah. But ultimately, if you're going to be successful, it's your people that are going to get you there. I don't know all the answers. I can have a view in the world, but I think if you're going to get people to, run with you and make things happen, then you've got to put it all on the table and shake it out and come up with an idea that works. It might not be what you want sometimes, but if the group like it and it's kind of roughly in the same area you're heading for, let's go for that. But that's something I've learned a lot, certainly. But you've got to see the best in people to start with.
What's next for you?
I mean, for the next 5 weeks are what are next for me, to be honest. But I mean, my focus is on delivering both events as well as I can in June of this year, and just creating an event where, as I said, both my exhibitors and my delegates, visitors and speakers have got a lot of value out of it, and just you're looking for that energy within a room, if I can call it that, where people go, yeah, that was good. And when you know when it's there, if you know what I mean. You know when it's not there. And if I can feel it, then I'll want to be able to take that forward into 2026 and do something just a little bit bigger, a little bit better, but still essentially, brings people together to network and do business and learn off each other.
So what's the limit? Because next year it could be great again, and you push it a little bit bigger. Yeah,
well, that's a really good question. The limit, I think, is there definitely is something called a work-life balance. There's no question about that. I think when you start off, what we're a year and a half in now, that kind of goes out the window just now, to be honest. But I would like to, you've got to be aware of the markets that you operate in, and where that tipping point is, and when you go too far to the other side. So, I mean, the venue that we run in this year, Derby Arena, is a fantastic venue with scope to grow. Mm-hmm. So if we can, even add another 20% onto that next year, that would be I think, achievable based upon what we do this year, and I think that would allow us to still deliver an event which is, small but focused and valuable. Beyond that, that's let's just not get ahead of ourselves too much.
You know what my next question is going to be. At what point does it stop? At what point do you stop?
I feel young, I feel good, and
but do you have an eye on, let's get it to this big, and then it's attractive to someone?
I haven't. All I'm focused on over the next few years is trying to get it to a point where it has value to the industry, if I can call it that. I'm trying to create something which can become a fixture in a calendar, whereby it kind of looks after itself, if that makes sense. There's a great danger sometimes in moving too fast too soon and losing something, and it's happened to so many events in the past that I'm acutely aware of that look and feel in the offering, as opposed to, it's not a mega event, it's a one-day event. You can turn up with a tabletop and be off and away again in 10 hours, So we're trying to keep that level of ease, but at the same time, just make it big enough whereby it gives people enough reasons to attend and enough of them.
Do you consider yourself successful?
No, I don't. No, but I don't. Honestly, we all crash and burn. We all do. We all make silly mistakes. But I've been very fortunate to have had a great career in what I've done, and I've been supported by a lot of people who've had faith in me when probably others didn't. But I think for me, if I can deliver this in June of this year, and then continue to deliver it a little bit more in the years to come, then for me, I think I could say I've done something. That'd be the honest answer.
Okay.
Because when you stand on your own 2 feet, then you really find out, don't you?
Mm-hmm.
And this is when I'm backing myself. And I've been fortunate enough to have great people in the industry support me so far, and I just want to keep that going and deliver something which I feel fits the picture that I have in my head.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
The success that you've had throughout your career, because you will have had pockets of success, even though you say you're not successful. Would you attribute that to luck or hard work?
I've had a fair share of luck. Crikey. And I think they both meet each other. Let's be honest, don't they? The more you're out there, knocking on doors, speaking to people, having a curious mind, having an open mind, being engaging, then things happen, don't they?
Yep.
So as far as I'm concerned, I have an optimistic mindset, quite frankly. Otherwise I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing. I believe things will happen and they'll sort themselves out. And I think, especially in events, if you have that sort of mindset, it works.
Mm-hmm.
The great thing about events is they are essentially blank bits of paper. So you and I could sit and have a conversation about an idea and then create it together.
Yeah.
So I think having all those things together, coupled with some hard work, it happens, yeah.
Okay, perfect.
Did I answer?
Yeah, it's a great answer. Yeah. That's all of my questions.
All of them?
That's all of them. It's all of them that I wrote down last night at 10 o'clock. Yeah. Got any questions?
No.
You're happy? Happy to finish there?
Yeah, if you want. It's up to you.
Cool. Well, thank you very much.
You're welcome.